What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. This is going to be your Week 8 reaction, recap, whatever you want to call it. And honestly, it was a great week into college football. Going into it, you looked at some of the spreads and some of the matchups, and you thought, this might not be the greatest week into college football. But it just so happens that usually when that's the case, when you look at the matchups and whatnot, that you think it's not going to be a great weekend, ends up being one of the best. And this was a fantastic weekend of college football. So we will be getting into all the biggest games from this weekend. Don't really have any news to get into now. At the time of this recording, there have been no coaches fired. That being said, that can obviously change, and if it does, you might see a little blurb added in at some point throughout this episode. But as of right now, no coaches have been fired, but we will keep an eye on that, and like I said, I will add that in if need be.
It happened. I told you it was going to happen. There was a firing after I stopped recording. Billy Napier is now out at Florida. Honestly, can't say that we didn't see this coming. It was kind of, we were just waiting. When was it going to happen? It was not if, it was when. We'll talk about this more later this week when I'm previewing Week 9. Talk about, upcoming candidates, that sort of thing. But I would say Florida's probably the number one job available right now. I would put it above Penn State. Now I guess you could put it like a 1A, 1B type situation. Florida, Penn State, and then I think there's a little bit of a drop off, and then you've got Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, if you real quick off the top of my head putting them in an order. And then I think there's a significant drop off to UCLA, Oregon State, Stanford. Now I guess Oregon State probably is worse than Stanford just because they're not in the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, any of those. But I think I'd prefer Oregon State over Stanford personally. But yeah, Billy Napier's out. We'll talk more later. I knew this was going to happen. I just knew it.
But yeah, typical episode, just going to recap the games. We'll get through my betting recap, which, man, I was so close to being suspended yet again. And then we'll finish off with Dude, Are You High? So, yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's have a good wake and bake sesh and get right into it. All right, starting with Friday's games, we had a couple top 25 upsets. Number 2 Miami goes down to Louisville, 24 to 21. I shouldn't say goes. Miami loses to Louisville. It was a home game for Miami. I realize now that the way I said that could be a little confusing. That being said, I don't know if you watched this game at all. I did have it. I watched part of it and then had it as a second screen while I was watching, obviously, Minnesota, Nebraska. What an embarrassing home crowd for that Miami team, which we've known this, unless they're playing like Notre Dame or a top 15 team, I guess you could say, because they're a good team, I guess. And so you would expect a bigger crowd for them. And my goodness, just so many empty seats in that stadium. It's just bizarre. And I understand the stadium is not close to campus. It's a whole fiasco, whatever. But still, just not great. Now, Miami losing, it was bound to happen because it's Mario Cristobal. Now, was Mario Cristobal the reason they lost this game? No. Carson Beck did throw 4 interceptions, and we'll talk about Carson Beck later. That might be a little bit of a spoiler, but whatever. Not a great game for Miami. It's a game that they should have won. Play this game over again, and they might actually win it. Again, Carson Beck threw 4 interceptions. That's not good at all, and it's a huge reason why they lost this game because they were driving late in that game, getting into field goal position to potentially tie it or even score a touchdown and win the game. Um, and just defender made a phenomenal fingertip interception to essentially seal the game at that point. Carson Beck doing the surrender cobra and everything. It was bizarre. Now obviously this is a team game, so you can't put all the blame on one player, Carson Beck. But his performance did not help. Uh, but credit to Louisville for pulling off that upset. But this was the start. This is going to be the theme this weekend. The theme of this episode: there are no elite teams outside of Ohio State. There are some very good teams like Indiana, I'll say Oregon, Georgia, Alabama so far, Texas A&M. We can still keep Miami in that category if you want, but when it comes to elite teams, it's Ohio State and nobody else at this point. And this was the start of people kind of wondering that. But yeah, number two Miami losing to Louisville. All right, number 25 Nebraska goes to Minnesota and loses at 24-6, and that is six in a row for the Gophers. Um, I'm not going to say that Minnesota dominated this whole game because it was only 7-6 at halftime, but they dominated the second half for sure, especially that third quarter. This might not sound like a crazy accomplishment, um, but shout out to Drake Lindsey for throwing for over 100 yards because he is one of three quarterbacks to do that so far. He threw for like, oh goodness, I don't have it written down here. One over 150. I know that it was 150 plus. I think he got into the 60s. Um, only he's only the second quarterback to throw for that many yards because three quarterbacks have thrown for over 100 yards versus Nebraska. Bryce Underwood had 105, barely did it. Every other quarterback's thrown for under 100, and then last week Malik Washington did throw for like 250 plus, and then Drake Lindsey this week. Actually, if you look at the theme there, it's freshman quarterbacks are able to throw for over 100 yards over against Nebraska, but nobody else can. Um, but yeah, it doesn't seem like that should be a accomplishment, but this so far this season it is an accomplishment. Now, this is where I see a lot of controversy in this game. Dylan Raiola was sacked 9 times, and I see one side that is saying offensive line was just that terrible that they sacked him 9 times, and that honestly it should have been more sacks because he was able to avoid some of the pressure. And then you see the other side, well, the reason why it was 9 sacks, it never should have been that many, is because he has terrible pocket presence and doesn't get rid of the ball. The truth is somewhere right in the middle. Yes, there were some times that he should have gotten rid of the ball. Why are you extending the play? Whatever. But then on the other side, there was a few times where he was able to extend the play and make a play. But the pressure was just getting to him so quick that he was forced to do that a lot. Again, truth is somewhere in the middle. It's a little column A, little column B. Yes, he could have better pocket presence. Yes, you could argue some sacks are his fault. But on the other side, he did avoid quite a few sacks because the pressure came often and it came quick when it did. So I have to throw that up there. It's somewhere in the middle. It's a little on him, but a lot on the offensive line as well. Now, Nebraska fans, I feel like, are melting down. One, because of how bad the offensive line has been, and a little bit towards Dylan Raiola. But I also see them getting upset with Gopher fans for caring about this win and caring about this game so much. And you could argue that this is more of a rivalry game for Minnesota than it is Nebraska. You could say that Minnesota fans do care a little bit more about this game than Nebraska does. There is a reason for that. Every single year, Nebraska fans, national media, Nebraska media. Nebraska is a top 25 team. They're one of the best in the Big Ten. This is their year. And every single year, national media and sure, I guess Nebraska fans, but other fan bases in general view Minnesota as a bottom tier Big Ten team and that they should be a team that you beat no problem. And every single year, it is the exact opposite. Nebraska is a bottom tier Big Ten team, and they are a team that you should have no problem beating. And Minnesota ends up being I'm not going to say top tier because they're not Ohio State or at this point Indiana or whatever, but they are they are in that second tier of Big Ten teams more often than not since PJ Fleck has become the head coach, and they've won six in a row against Nebraska. So you can't blame Minnesota fans for taking this rivalry a little more seriously than Nebraska and loving it when we actually do beat Nebraska because again, every single year going into the season, Minnesota is just shit on and everybody sucks Nebraska's dick. It's really what it comes down to. So I'm defending Gopher fans, obviously because I am a Gopher fan. Um, but that is why you see Nebraska fans claim they don't care, which I think they care more than they let on, and they think Minnesota fans care more. That's why. Um, if I'm going to be a little negative about this win, which I don't like to do, but I feel like I should be realistic, Minnesota did run the ball quite effectively, which they better have because this is the worst run defense that they've had to face so far. So if they struggled in this game, I was going to be upset moving forward. 186 yards on the ground, like 5 yards a carry, a little over actually. That's great. That's phenomenal. That's better than pretty much what they've done all year for the most part. But Darius Taylor did have a 71-yard run at one point. If you take away that one run, they're averaging just over 30 over 3 yards a carry in this game, which is not great. So take away one run, and they still kind of struggle to run the ball. So I still don't love that moving forward, but this is a great win for Minnesota. Shows that they are in that second tier of Big Ten teams, and that Nebraska is once again an overrated team. All right, moving on to Saturday games. Oh man, you know what? Saturday was great. I mean, Friday was too, but Saturday just had so many great games. Uh, LSU 24, Vanderbilt 31. I mean, I said it going into this game that if Vanderbilt wins games, they win at least two of these three categories. They are successful on third downs, and sometimes defensively at stopping the opponent, but mostly on offense, being successful on third downs and fourth downs, I guess, too. Um, Time of possession, winning that battle, and then also just not losing the turnover battle. They don't even necessarily have to win it, but not losing it. And that's exactly what happened in this game. They absolutely dominated time of possession. They were 8 of 15 on third and fourth down, and neither team turned the ball over. So that's a win as well. So they won all three, or tied, you know what I mean. If they win two of those three, they win games, and that's exactly what happened. Now, got to give a shout out to Diego Pavia because, and I'm really curious to see that if Beck and Kill stick around next year and they don't get plucked, which I could see Jerry Kill just staying, but if Beck doesn't get plucked and Diego Pavia is gone, I am curious how this team is going to look, how this offense is going to look, because again, it's a team game. You can't put it all on one person, but Diego Pavia is a huge reason they won this game. When they needed to play the most, he was there to deliver. He was absolutely phenomenal, dominated through the air. And by the way, you look at his stats, I don't think he only threw for like 160 yards or something like that. Like, it wasn't like he was just blowing you away throwing the ball, but he made the plays when they needed to happen. Uh, Phenomenal game by Diego Pavia. Phenomenal game by Vanderbilt. Now people are going to disparage this win and put it down and say, "Well, LSU's not a great win." Blah blah blah. It's it's still a good win for Vanderbilt. Okay, I'm not going to disparage this win for them at all. Yes, I do think LSU is overrated. Preseason, I had them finishing outside the top 25. I thought I went through that list of top 25 teams, and they were on that list of teams I thought would finish outside it. So I'm not going to disparage this win though for Vanderbilt. It is still a very good win. And that being said, I mean LSU wasn't terrible in this one. They scored 24 points, which let's be honest, they don't usually score 24 points. Um, there wasn't a single punt in this game until midway through the fourth quarter. So I mean there was a good amount of offense being played on both sides of the ball, and then defenses kind of started to step up finally in that fourth quarter. I would like to not necessarily eat my words, but I'll take back what I said earlier this summer when I Diego Pavia won Dude Are You High, and that was because he mentioned that he wants to he came back because he wants to uh, he was either win the national title or make the playoffs, right? And I made fun of him because I said, yes, your team is going to be good, but you're nowhere near being SEC contenders, playoff contenders, any of that. And while I don't think they're national title contenders, I don't think that's possible. They are contenders for the SEC, and maybe, just maybe they'll make a playoff spot. Now, do I think it's likely? Absolutely not. But it's a lot more likely than it was this summer when I made fun of Diego Pavia. So I'm going to slightly retract. I'm sorry I made fun of you so much for that. I still don't think any of it's going to happen, but it seems a lot more likely now than it did then. Georgia Tech 27, Duke 18. I mean, this score is kind of lopsided. Um, this game was a lot closer than it shows because it was 10-10 going into the fourth quarter. Uh, Georgia Tech did get up to a 27-10 lead, so scored 17 unanswered. Actually, might have been more than 17 unanswered, but 17 unanswered in that fourth quarter. Duke did score a touchdown with just over a minute left to make it a little closer, but like I said, for 3 quarters, it looked like Duke might pull it off. And honestly, you could argue that Duke should have won this game, and that if they played this game again, Duke would win. Duke had 2 drives that ended with a turnover or a turnover on downs inside Georgia Tech's red zone in the first half. They also missed a field goal and had another drive where they had to settle for a field goal inside Georgia Tech's 10-yard line. Convert one of those drives into a touchdown. This is a much different game. Have that turnover you had inside Georgia's red zone not be returned for a touchdown. This is a whole different game. Um, Play it again and Duke wins this game, honestly. They were the better team in this one. They just couldn't. I guess I can't say they're the better team. They lost. But just a few plays really would have turned this game completely on its head and had Georgia Tech being another top 25 team that lost this week. Um, Darian Mensah, 32 of 44, 373 yards, 2 touchdowns. Duke definitely wishes they had this game back for sure because they did play well. Darian Mensah played well. Just a couple mistakes here and there just completely turned this game on its head. Georgia Tech, I'm a somewhat of a Georgia Tech fan, I guess, because I do love Haynes King, and when Haynes King plays, they do have a shot. And Georgia Tech, you're undefeated, but you're kind of lucky to be undefeated at this point. Texas Tech 22, Arizona State 26. Texas Tech number 7 team in the country. My goodness, words are hard. Uh, they won't be anymore though. What a great win for Arizona State. Um, this game, while wasn't a great game for the full game, it was a great ending. Arizona State had a 19-7 lead going into the fourth quarter. Texas Tech scored 2 minutes in the final, or 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes of the game to take the lead back by 3. And then Arizona State 75 yards in just a minute and a half to score a touchdown to take the lead back, and then ultimately win the game as Texas Tech could not score after that. Well, there was only 25 seconds left in the game, but you know what I'm saying. Um, they held Arizona State held Texas Tech to under 300 yards of offense. Now you could argue that Will Hammond was the starting quarterback since Baron Morton was out, so that's why why they didn't have a great offense. But Will Hammond, the few times he's come in this year, has been great. So I'm not going to fully buy into that argument. Um, One thing I'm going to be critical of when it comes to Arizona State, they did have 3 drives that went into Texas Tech's red zone that they had to settle for a field goal. Some of those even went inside the 10-yard line. Don't love that. That should be fixed. It didn't matter in this game. You came away with the win. So again, I don't want to nitpick too much, but that is something I would be critical of Arizona State. But in the end, what a great win for Arizona State, and I love Kenny Dillingham. He is probably top 3 coach for me. I just maybe not with he doesn't have the pedigree that some of these other coaches have, but I love Kenny Dillingham. I think he's phenomenal. And honestly, and maybe it's because he's made it, who knows? Maybe he's told his agent, do not accept calls, I'm not looking. I do think it is kind of crazy that he has not been mentioned for any job opening at all. Now, I know Arizona State's alma mater. He loves it at Arizona State. And again, he may have put it out there that he has no intentions of leaving, yada, yada, and that's why he's not talked about. At the same time, you'd think he'd at least be considered for some of these openings. Ole Miss 35, Georgia 43. What a great game. What a great win for Georgia. Now, it wasn't looking good for those first 3 quarters. Uh, Georgia's defense had absolutely no answer for Trinidad Chambliss. He looked phenomenal. He looked cool, calm, and collected those first 3 quarters. 18 and 26, 262 yards, a touchdown. He had 9 carries, 42 yards, another 2 on the ground. And then crunch time happened. The fourth quarter happened, and he I'm not going to say it's all on him because he started to face a lot more pressure in that fourth quarter, but when it mattered most, he couldn't deliver. In that fourth quarter, he was 1 of 10 for 1 yard. Shout out to Georgia's defense for standing up when it mattered most. Yes, you had allowed 35 points in those first 3 quarters, and that's not great. A lot of yardage as well. But to stand up when it mattered the most and completely shut down Ole Miss's offense, phenomenal. Phenomenal job. Also, shout out to Georgia's offense. Had a very good game, and they were able to take over and put away the game when it mattered the most in that fourth quarter. If we look at Georgia's offense in that fourth quarter, 205 yards, 17 points. Ole Miss's offense in that fourth quarter had 12 total yards, 0 points. Um, if Georgia can ever figure out how to put it together for a full game instead of just the second half of a game, watch out because in the second half of games this season they've been dominant. Whether it's the full half or just the fourth quarter, they have dominated. Um, but they just can't put it together for that first half. So if they can ever figure that out, Georgia's a team not to be messed with. Number 4, Texas A&M on the road at Arkansas, come away with a 45-42 win. I mean, tell me if you've heard this one before. Arkansas lost a one-score game. Now, and they have 5 losses this year. 4 of them have been by one score. Now, this is a little deceiving because the final touchdown for Arkansas came with like 10 seconds left in the game. So, I mean, it was a 10-point game until that final drive. So the score is a little deceiving. But still, the fact that Arkansas pushes teams to the end, congrats to them on that. Congrats on your offense being that good. Because your defense is just absolutely terrible. It is so crazy how bad Arkansas's defense is. Um, Shout out Texas A&M, 7-0. I am loving my playoff future that I have on them. It's looking good. Week by week, it's just looking better and better. So I love that for me. Third Saturday in October, number 11 Tennessee goes on the road to number 6 Bama. Alabama comes away with a 37-20 win. Now, I just want to get out ahead of this. I am not trying to discredit this win for Alabama. I'm not trying to poo-poo it or anything because Alabama was the better team. Alabama deserved to win. I thought Alabama was going to win the game. A great game for them. Great win. They deserved it. 100% they deserved this win. But my goodness, Tennessee, could you have been sloppier? Could you have shot yourself in the foot more? Just ugly, ugly game. They really, Bama was always probably going to win this game, but they just really gave it away to them. Made it easy for Alabama to win this. Too many self-inflicted wounds, and just again, I'm not saying that cut down on these mistakes, they still come away with the win because again, Bama's a very good team. But it would have been a lot more competitive if they just stopped shooting themselves in the foot. And I was really hoping for a competitive game. And it feels like what really hurt the most was that pick six at the end of the first half. Because that pick six doesn't happen. Tennessee kicks a field goal at worst or scores a touchdown. Either way, we're looking at a one-score game going into half. Instead, it's 23-7. Alabama has the lead, and I think they even started with the ball in the second half, which they didn't do anything with it. But regardless, it just changed the whole outcome of this game, in my opinion. This game could have been a lot closer without that pick six. But then again, you add in a few just terrible penalties, absolutely terrible tackling, and a lot of dropped passes. This is the result you can expect. You can expect a 37-20 loss. I mean, it's unfortunate for Tennessee, I should say. What a great job, Bama, for I guess forcing some of those mistakes. Now, Alabama wasn't perfect, so let's just get that out there. Tennessee's three-headed rushing attack still ran the ball 23 times for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's over 7 yards a carry. That's not great. Alabama's run defense continues to be a problem, and on offense, the rushing attack also continues to be a problem. In the end, great win for Bama, but they do still have some things that they need to get figured out that just up to this point have shown no signs of being figured out. Terrible, sloppy loss for Tennessee. They wish they could play this one over again. Again, I don't think they would necessarily win, but it would have been a lot more competitive. Number 16 Mizzou on the road They come away with a 23-17 win in double overtime, and I mean, what a sloppy game from both teams. Let's just say that off the top. Just an ugly game for both sides. And Auburn, similar to Arkansas, just cannot figure out how to win a one-score game. They have four straight losses. Three of those are by one score. And even the 20-10 loss to Georgia, you could argue that was a winnable game. You could argue the refs got in their way. I mean, it was, and you could have argued that even if they would have, because I could argue that could have been a touchdown, would have been 17 points. Georgia scored only 20-17. That's a one-score lot. I mean, just cannot figure it out how to win a game. And when you look at the rest of their schedule too, there might only be two wins left on this schedule. Kentucky, I think, is a win, and Mercer is going to be a win. Based on how close Auburn has been, there's a chance that they pull an upset at some point this year. And yes, I'm going to consider at Arkansas an upset. I do think Arkansas is probably going to be favored in that game. So if they beat Arkansas, I'm going to consider that an upset. They are also on the road at Vandy, and they host Alabama. I don't, I don't think they're going to upset Alabama. Um, they could, I guess, upset Vanderbilt. I do think Arkansas is probably the most likely upset. So there's a possibility of three wins left on the schedule, which means that Auburn is just barely making a bowl game. Um, yeah, Arkansas is their best chance in my opinion. I'm sure they. I don't know. I don't know. Auburn's a weird team because their defense is good and they played well in this game. Because Bo Pribula was not great. Ahmad Hardy had his worst game of the season. I think it was 24 carries, like 50, 60 yards maybe, and I think he did have two touchdowns, so that's cool. But uh, definitely his worst game of the year. But again, this is going to sound like a shocker, and it shouldn't be a shocker because it's Hugh Freeze. But offense, yet again, just has looked not great. Jackson Arnold was just okay. He was sacked 5 times, which again, not a shocker. He's been sacked a lot this season. Um, in retrospect, and I'm sure, I think it's Parker Fleming puts out how bad did you actually get beat. I wouldn't be shocked to see that Auburn really didn't get beat that bad, and honestly probably beat Mizzou more because they threw an interception that gave Mizzou a very short field in the first quarter. I think Mizzou only capitalized with a field goal. Um, and then Auburn also missed a 40-yard field goal, 38-yard field goal, and I believe like basically a 50-yarder or close to it in this game. They were 1 of 4 in field goal attempts. This is a game they should have won. Mizzou's a little lucky to come away with that win, and I think it's official. I think Hugh Freeze is gone. We already kind of suspected it, but Hugh Freeze is gone. Ooh, the Holy War. Number 23 BY or 23 Utah at number 15 BYU. BYU comes away with a 24-21 win. I guess it's official. Uh, BYU BYU is a good team. BYU is good. This is their best win so far this season. Now, again, I just mentioned Parker Fleming's how bad did we get beat. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that Utah beat BYU, but just kind of gave it away essentially, for lack of a better term. Um, but again, I don't want to disparage BYU's win because this is a good win. Uh, I love Bear Bachmeier. I think I don't think any moment is too big for him. I think the last thing that he needs to prove is going on the road against a very good team, which I think we are going to see coming up here. I don't quite remember their schedule coming up. Um, but yeah, no moment is too big for him so far, and he's just cool, calm, and collected, and it's phenomenal to see from a true freshman quarterback. Again, next test is a road win against a big team or just a road game against a big team. See how that goes for him. But yeah, everything I've seen from him so far, I'm not worried about it at all. Now, again, I mentioned it. Utah feels like they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot a lot with this one. They had 2 drives that ended in a turnover on downs deep in BYU's territory. Fumbled on a punt that gave BYU a relatively short field, and then threw an interception in the fourth quarter that BYU was able to turn into points, kind of put the game out of reach. Sloppy game from Utah's offense. Good game from BYU all around. I still believe in Utah. I still think they're a very good team. Again, I think they just shot themselves in the foot too much in this one. But I have officially become a BYU believer. All right, some other scores I want to touch on from Friday night. UNC 18 at Cal, who scored 21. I think this game is a little closer than Cal fans would have liked. It's definitely closer than I thought it would be, that's for sure. Just based on what we've seen from UNC against Power 4 teams, I thought this game was going to be pretty ugly. It was ugly, just not in the ass beating that I thought UNC was going to receive. Neither team hit 300 yards of offense in this game. There was 14 combined punts, and it was just a gross game all around. Um, Arizona at Houston. Houston 31, Arizona 28. Houston is now 6-1. Arizona is 4-3. I think most of what I said going into this game still stands. I think Arizona's a bad team. I did say that Fafita is a bad quarterback, and I do think I, I'm almost going to eat my words on this because he had a very good game. 24 of 26, 269 yards and 2 touchdowns. But one good game doesn't take away all the bad games that I've seen from him. But I might end up eating those words. We'll see if this continues to be a trend. But I don't think Fafita's good. I don't think Arizona's good. I do think Houston is at least a middle of the road above top half of the Big 12 team. They are 6-1. They're going bowling. Shout out to them. This is a great season for Houston. Baylor 36, Houston, TCU 42. Uh, I mean, especially the first half, I guess the whole game, just an ugly game. Weather wise, it was ugly. Performance wise, it was ugly. The first half, Baylor's offense really struggled. Now, I think that's two things. Sawyer Robinson was just didn't look great, and part of that was TCU's defense playing good in the first half. Part of it was he was missing some throws. Something just looked off with Sawyer in that first half. Now, Baylor is a team that I feel like when you've watched Baylor at least a few times this year, their offense may be fine in the first half, but then they really step it up in that second half. And it feels like Baylor's been a team that they figure out they're very good at making those second half adjustments offensively and building momentum in that second half, and then riding that momentum to either a dominating win or a come from behind win, one or the other. I guess against Auburn it wasn't a come from behind win, but if you watch that game, second half played much better. You look against Kansas State, played much better in that second half, and that was a come from behind win. So we've seen this with Baylor. They make those second half adjustments, they build momentum, and then they ride that momentum. And that's exactly what they were doing in this game, because that second half they came out, offense was absolutely cruising. First two drives came away with 10 points, had no problem marching right down the field both times. And then a few weather delays later, your momentum gets stopped. You have to sit for an hour, then you got to try to come back out and build that moment. It's hard to do that. So yeah, that absolutely derailed any and all momentum that Baylor had in that second half. I really wish we could have gotten this game with good weather, because I do think that this game would have been such an exciting game, and I think we would have seen a much different result. But it is what it is. Can't control the uncontrollable. Uh, but yeah, good win for TCU, I guess. Michigan 24, Washington 7. I mean, rough game for Washington. I'm not even really going to talk about Michigan much in this game because they're fine. They're whatever. But rough game for Washington. Under 250 yards of offense, 3 turnovers. One turnover was not on Damon Williams. It was an interception that he threw that Boston just straight up dropped right into a defender's hands. Bizarre. Not going to put that one on him, but it was still a turnover. They had 40 total rushing yards at 1.7 yards a pop. Just got destroyed in time of possession. And I mean, this was an absolute night and day difference from what we saw from Damon Williams last week compared to this week. Obviously, Rutgers compared to Michigan, completely different teams, but you know what I'm saying. Last week he had over 500 yards of offense and 4 touchdowns. This week he had 209 yards passing, negative rushing yards, and 0 touchdowns. And the defense, I mean, I guess they didn't really have an answer for Michigan's offense. I can't really say that, because if that was the case, Michigan would have scored like 30 plus. Only scored 24. But Underwood, 21 of 27, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jordan Marshall, 25 carries, 133 yards, and a touchdown. So I mean, they had a good day offensively, great day defensively. Yeah, rough game for Washington. UConn 38, Boston College 23. Boston College's ass. That's all I wanted to say. Um, West Virginia 13, UCF 45. West Virginia's ass. That's all I want to say about that game. And then number one, Ohio State 34, Wisconsin 0. I wanted to throw this one in here because Wisconsin is ass. That's all I got to say about that one. All right, Oklahoma number 14 at South Carolina. They came away with a 26-7 win. I mean, South Carolina's offense continues to just suck so hard. They're just so bad. Every single concern that I had for South Carolina's offense going into this season has just has been true week in and week out. 225 yards of total offense, 3 of 15 on third down, 2 turnovers, allowed 6 sacks. It's been ugly. It's still ugly. I don't see it getting any prettier moving forward. Oklahoma's defense continues to be great. The offense still just looks eh. Passing attack, passing game, whatever you want to call it, was fine. They were able to get a run game going for once, so that's encouraging. But yeah, offense just hasn't looked great. Now, is Shane Beamer, is he going to call quits with South Carolina? Is he? When like Virginia Tech's job came open and people started mentioning Shane Beamer, I was like, there's no way he's leaving South Carolina, and there's still maybe a chance that he's not leaving South Carolina. But I don't feel as strongly about that now as I did then. Michigan State 13, number 3 Indiana 38. I mean, first half of this game, Indiana looked like they had a little bit of a hangover from their win over Oregon. Michigan State was only down 21-10 at half, and Aiden Childs didn't look bad. In that first half, he actually looked pretty good. And then the second half happened, and it was just all Indiana from there. Mendoza, 24 of 28, 332 yards and 4 touchdowns. Indiana continues to roll. Michigan State continues to have a terrible defense and a up and down, inconsistent offense. And honestly, more bad than good if we really look at it. SMU 35, Clemson 24. I mean, what's going on with Clemson this season? Just absolutely insane. Cade Klubnik did not play in this one. Shout out to Vizina. I don't know how to say his last name. 29 of 42, 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. And you look at that and you're like, well, that's actually pretty good. But the run game was absolutely non-existent. 30 carries for 35 yards. Brutal. Just absolutely brutal. And defensively, they could not stop SMU, which this is supposed to be a good defense. Shout out to SMU for that win. Clemson. I mean, at the bare minimum, you should have been, if we look at Clemson from last season, what did we see? Anytime they played a great team, they lost. Anytime they played average to good team, they won. And so you figured at a bare minimum that's what they would do this year. But nope, it's worse somehow. Mississippi State 21, Florida 23. I mean, what a heartbreaking loss for Mississippi State. You were so close to going 5-2, but now you're 4-3. Minute and a half left in this game. You're marching down the field trying to win the game. You get into Florida territory. You're at the 29-yard line, and then you just throw a terrible interception. And I've seen people asking the question, you're in field goal range. Why the hell are you throwing the ball? Got to remember, kicker did miss a field goal earlier in the game. That was closer than where they currently were. But still, maybe shouldn't have been throwing the ball. I don't know. I'm not a coach. Hindsight's always 2020. But what a brutal loss. Just that excitement from coming back down 20-7 in that fourth quarter and then just giving it away on the final drive when you had a chance to win it. Tough. Just a tough loss. Purdue at Northwestern. Northwestern comes away with a 19-0 win. And 19-0 doesn't seem like a dominating win, but this was kind of a dominating win for Northwestern. I would say for at least 3 quarters, Purdue couldn't do anything offensively, I guess kind of defensively. Northwestern dominated time of possession, forced 3 turnovers, held Purdue to 5 of 17 on third and fourth down. Uh, Overall, this whole game was ugly by both sides, but shout out to Northwestern for a dominating win. UCLA 20, Maryland 17. I mean, thank God I did not convince myself to believe again because I would have been disappointed for the third straight week. Shout out to UCLA for one of the craziest in-season turnarounds I have ever seen. What a great win. Well, I mean, I can't say that this was a great win, but they won three in a row, and that's great for them. Number 20, USC at number 15, Notre Dame. Notre Dame comes away with a 34-24 win. My Jeremiah Love Heisman future got brought back to life this week. It was looking as good as dead at the beginning of the season, but it has come back to life. 265 yards from scrimmage on 29 touches. That's nearly 10 yards a touch. I think it comes out to like 9.1 or 2 or something like that. Um, and I can't say he is the reason why this offense had so much success in this game, but it's kind of true because CJ Carr he was all right in this one. It also helped that Jadarian Price was able to return a kickoff for a touchdown, so that was pretty cool. So that take away that kickoff return for a touchdown, I mean this is a much closer game potentially. But shout out to Notre Dame's defense for coming up with a few turnovers in that second half to kill any sort of comeback by USC. Um, Lane and Lemon continue to be just a deadly duo. 10 receptions between the two, 187 yards, only one touchdown, but man, that is arguably the best wide receiver duo in the country, if not the best. Um, Man, I thought this was going to be the week that they started to turn it around. Penn State 24, Iowa 25. If you watch this game, I don't feel sorry for you because this is what we expected, just an ugly game. Um, I did not watch this game. It's on Peacock. I mean, that doesn't. Yes, I have Peacock. It's not convenient for me to have that on when I'm trying to, when every other game is on cable. So I didn't watch it. I'm going to be honest, but I do know ugly offensive performance from both teams. Um, when you look at Penn State moving forward, they may not get another win for at least a month. This was their best shot for sure. Because next up is on the road at Ohio State. After that, it's home versus Indiana. And then after that, it's on the road at Michigan State, which is on November 15th. That is potentially going to be a win for them. It is on the road, but Michigan State has not been good. But that is on November 15th. That is nearly a month from now that they have their next best shot at a win. After that, it's home versus Nebraska and on the road versus Rutgers, which, I mean, maybe both of those are wins as well. So we could see them finish the season on a 3-game win streak and make a bowl game. But it's going to be a month before we see a win, and Penn State might not make a bowl game. Number 8, number 8 Rutgers. Number 8 Oregon, 56 at Rutgers, who scored 10. Yuck, what a terrible game for Rutgers. Oregon took out all their anger from that loss to Indiana out on Rutgers. 750 yards of offense compared to Rutgers 202. Uh, Oregon did turn the ball over 3 times. Didn't matter. Whittington, Davison, and Hill combined for 19 carries, 287 yards, and 4 touchdowns. This game was basically over in the first quarter. Washington State 20, Virginia 22. I mean, Washington State has figured something out. They took Ole Miss to the wire, took Virginia to the wire. Um, they're a feisty team. Shout out to them. Uh, they were up 20-10 going into the fourth quarter, and then just had a terrible fourth quarter collapse. Shout out to Virginia. Ugly win, but you are officially going bowling, which who knows? Maybe Virginia fans are upset about that because they wanted Elliott gone. Um, but hey, enjoy it. It's a good season. Haven't had one of those in a minute. Enjoy it. Um, Last game we will talk on. Oh no, we'll bring up the other one. Texas, 21st team in the country, 21st ranked team in the country at Kentucky, and they came away with a 16-13 win in overtime. My goodness, 2 things I did not think I would be saying this year. Kentucky almost beat Texas and brought it to overtime, and Cutter Boley outplayed Arch Manning. Arch Manning, 12 of 27 for 132 yards. Boley was 31 of 39 for 258 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown, did throw an interception. But I did not think I'd be saying the words Boley outplayed Manning. Texas needs to figure out their run game. 28 carries for 47 yards is absolutely terrible. Uh, Kentucky's defense has struggled against every SEC team they've played so far this season, and then all of a sudden against Texas they shine. Now their offense continues to struggle against every single SEC team, but defense has been struggling lately, and for them to shut down Texas like that, not a great look for Texas. Ugly win, ugly season, but yet somehow Texas is 5-2, just insane. Now I didn't watch this last game, um, but Stanford upset Florida State. If you watched the end of that game, it was it was insane. Uh, Florida State just launches a hail mary that uh, doesn't quite make it to the end zone. Florida State catches the ball with like 2 seconds left, which is a first down, so the clock stops, and then they have time to run one quick play. It's a fumble. Shotgun snap goes past the quarterback. He has to chase it down, grabs it, launches the ball into the end zone just for a shot. Ends up being a pass interference call, so we get one untimed down from the 2 yard line, and I don't remember who. I think it was Sawchuk gets stuffed at the goal line on a little shovel pass. Stanford comes away with the upset. Florida State has now lost four straight. Just brutal for Florida State fans. Absolutely brutal. Losing to Stanford on the road. Stanford, I mean, slowly becoming not the worst team. Not as bad as we thought they were going to be. I thought this was going to be absolute dumpster fire, and we don't see Stanford in any competitive games. In fact, quite the opposite. They've won more than I expected them to win, and shout out to them for that. Um, Betting recap, not a great weekend again, yet again. And the committee has informed me that if I had not hit that parlay, uh, powerful moneyline parlay, by the way, hit, so that was a plus. If the parlay had not hit, I was going to be suspended a week again. And then there was going to be restrictions on when I came back. Um, but that parlay hit, saved me. I'm still on probation, but we got to turn it around. All right, time for my final and favorite segment. Dude, are you high? And honestly, I considered giving it to Jeff Lebby for throwing the ball when you're already in field goal range, trying to come from behind, but I decided against it. I did think about giving it to UMass fans and players who, when Buffalo threw an interception with like 50 seconds left in the game, down like 1 point, I think. Uh, you know, UMass player waving goodbye to the crowd, UMass fans tweeting out, "We got our first win of the season." I think there was a Barstool account, Unnecessary Roughness, tweeted out that UMass had just gotten their first win of the season, um, and then proceed to go 3-and-out on the next drive. And then Buffalo, who had all three of their timeouts, only had to use two of them because UMass decided to throw on third down for whatever reason. Um, Buffalo marches right down the field, scores a touchdown, wins the game. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. But no, I am actually giving it to Carson Beck because you throw four interceptions, and yes, it's a team game and all of that. You can't put all the blame on him. But when you are in a post game presser and somebody asks you about that final interception where the defender made a great play and you throw your wide receiver under the bus for running the wrong route, whether or not he did or did not run the wrong route, you don't do that. You do not throw your teammates under the bus. You take accountability. Should not have made that throw. This, that. You do anything but throw your teammate under the bus. And I feel like that's football 101. That's you learn that very early on. Carson Beck, dude, are you high? Can't be doing that. Anyways, what a great weekend of college football. Like I mentioned, you know, there are no. This just proved that there are no elite teams outside of Ohio State. There are a handful of very good teams, and then everybody else that is just anybody could win any single weekend. Um, this truly is a great season of college football so far, and we are just barely halfway through the season. There is so much more chaos to come. I cannot wait for it. Uh, Thank y'all for joining me. I'll be back later this week to preview week 9.